Wait, do you want me to do my normal intro? Welcome to Social Justice Leadership Training. I'm Reagan and I'm your moderator for today. With us, we have Dr. Joo, who is the founder of Platform, and Pauline Kim. So, today we're going to be talking about our final thoughts and wrap up this session. Welcome, Pauline.
Thank you.
Just a quick question for both of you. I know that Pauline, you've watched most of the videos, is that correct?
Yes.
And Reagan been part of the conversation. Reagan, by chance, did you watch the very first video, the one that you were not part of?
Yes, I did.
So that's 14 weeks we've had time together. I'm just wondering what some of your insights were. What did you find to be most helpful? First. Second, why do you think this program would be helpful? And third, where are the areas we could sort of develop more? So the very first is, what are some of the things that you've learned the most? Well, either one of you could start. Who wants to start?
I guess I could go first. I definitely learned, I enjoyed the different topics that we covered for this program, and I did appreciate everyone's perspectives from the different speakers that we featured. I would say one of the main things that I learned was it made me do a lot more self-reflection for sure. And just also made me reflect on the system. Well, different aspects of our system today, meaning our social, the system, and how much of people are. I learned how burnt out a lot of people are. And I also learned, that social justice is just even more important than, well, not more than before. It's just still very important, and that it is really encouraging that we are discussing topics that regard social justice, and also just stuff that is going on in our climate right now. So I guess it's more of a reflection. It really helped me learn to question things about myself, my values, and maybe kind of not only check myself, but make some changes to my values and my thought processes and stuff like that.
Reagan?
I really enjoyed our conversations about the different topics that we covered, and I learned a lot of different perspectives and how one topic can mean so many different things to whoever you ask.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I was actually thinking about the extent to which the topics that we discuss, which is ideally understood within the context of social justice, is actually has a lot of relevance for people who are not in social justice. So it is a lot of questions that forces you to reflect on where you are in your life and where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
So it has a general appeal as well as a specific appeal to people who want to enter into social justice.
Yes.
Following up on that, I wonder if there's that one topic that you thought, oh, geez, that just really hits it on the nail for me. What would that be? The one topic that was just like, wow, I never thought about it. Anything that comes to your mind? Any of the speakers or any of the themes that we picked up on?
Reagan, do you want to go first? Because I think I have a few that I'm thinking over.
Yeah, but I want you to think about the top
The
choice.
top, right? Okay.
Reagan, you're muted again. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
about you, Sam?
Pauline, can you just finish your thought and then we'll come to Reagan. She figures out her connection issues.
Okay. So let's see. I definitely enjoyed. I'm trying to pick between two.
Well, what are the two? And then we'll just sort of talk about the one. I'll pick the one for you.
I really enjoyed values. I think that hit home with me just because I'm still figuring out my values. And like you said, I think, over time, like, people change. We experience lots of different things, and that includes your values changing. And I think the values ties into almost everything that we do. And so once values is once you have like chosen, or maybe I guess what's the word, like thought out the values that you would like to live out in your life, that definitely reflects how you want to move forward with that. And in terms of like social justice and all of that, I think it's hugely important on what your values are.
And actually, that's one of the areas that I wanted you to reflect on is what really are your values? And if you're not happy with your values, how should you change it? And the other thing, actually, for me, a big concern was the issue of passion, the very conversation we had.
Yeah, that
with
was
you.
my second one, actually.
Yeah, the passion one, because I know you're struggling to figure out what passion is for you and how you should pursue it.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you want me to answer those questions?
No, that's for you to just sort of
Okay.
contemplate.
Yeah.
What about you, Reagan? What are the topics that you have thought about the most?
One of the topics I found interesting was success redefined and how many different definitions of successes and kind of some of the backwards definitions that we have created.
I'm curious, what is your definition of success now, you think? You're muted again.
Yeah, I don't know why that keeps on happening for Reagan.
I feel like it's the wiring issue.
Could be.
Yeah, you're still muted, Reagan. Yeah. There we go.
Now? Okay.
Yes.
I think part of my definition of success would be growing from your failures and redefining your failures to equal your successes and counting the little ones.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a very good definition. And actually, I'm still in the process of writing my thoughts about these issues, and that's something I needed to include. I forgot to include that. For me, as I was thinking about all the different topics, I didn't realize the extent to which my religious or spirituality has impacted my perception. It's something I've been subconsciously working with, but I became more conscious of it and have been able to name while talking and writing about these 12 topics.
Mhm.
So I think I would probably need to reflect more on that, and something that I don't know if I'm glad or frightened to discover about myself. So
With
that's where I'm coming from.
Mhm.
Now, in terms of why do you think, having heard the whole from the beginning to the end, why do you think this program would be important for those people who want to become leaders within activism and social justice? Because it's
Personally,
not your typical program, especially
right.
for high school students.
Yeah.
So why do you think this would be important, if it is? Either
Uh,
one of you. I know
okay.
that Pauline's older, but I'm just curious in terms of not just for even for youth, but even for young adults. When I say young adult, people, I'm talking about people in their 20s.
Yeah.
I'm old, that's why it's a different
Right.
definition
You're
of
a
a youngest.
senior.
So either one of you could respond. Reagan, it seems like you were about to say something.
Right.
I think this is an important course or training to call it, because it makes you think deeper about different topics that I've never thought about until I've had to think about it for this, and think it really does. Some of these things are formed with so many of your experiences without you even realizing it.
I completely agree. I think or piggybacking off of what you said, Reagan, the different topics that this program covers, or I'm sorry, this course, I think they're so essential because even for me, I do remember covering maybe like parts of the topics that we covered throughout, I don't know, high school, college, middle school. Um, but it just does a really in-depth um, reflection of, first of all, yourself. I think that's so important because you, like, as us as individuals, it will be so helpful to understand ourselves, therefore become we can be actually like um helpful to the community around us, and even for ourselves, have the meaning for why we do what we do, um, and just understand even just humans, have empathy and compassion for other people, and kind of just what you were saying too, Reagan. I think this is a really, really good program of like just breaking down all of the little things that allow us to really think about stuff that we never have or even want to. I think some topics are uncomfortable for some people too, Um,
I mean, I initially thought about a lot of these issues for adults. Remember our conversation with Kristen? She was like saying she's now understanding, Kristen Payne, she's now coming to understand what her strengths are, and she was entering into her 50s. I think one of the things that I've discovered has been that we live our lives, we develop habits and routines, and we subconsciously do things that we don't even know why we do it.
yes.
And because of that, we never really fully come into our potential because we never really think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is where I thought, why don't we start these conversations at a younger age, especially with young girls, young women who are dealing with a lot of things and they don't know how to make good decisions because they just don't have that, they haven't had the space to reflect. Not they're not capable of it, they just haven't had the right questions posed to them They haven't had a space to develop them, and they haven't really had someone to listen to them.
Yeah.
And so they continue these this pattern of not really thinking about what they're doing and why they're doing it.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
And I think a lot of the assumption is that, well, young people can't think, or they're not reflective. And I wonder, Reagan, do you think that the conversations are too mature for young people?
I think that they can be to a certain level, depending on the age. I think definitely older high schoolers, it's not a problem at all. But I think it also just depends on the person.
And this is, yeah. And that's when someone recommended that I open this up to 8th graders, I had to scratch my head and wonder, is it a conversation that I can have with an 8th grader? Would they have the maturity? And I've actually thought about this. I don't even know if college students are maturing about it. But what Reagan was said is correct. Some students can have this conversation. And to be honest, when I was tutoring kids, I was tutoring a kid who was 5 years old, with whom I was able to have this conversation with.
Wow.
Yeah, it was not you, Pauline.
Thank you.
It was a student I was tutoring, with whom I was able to have this conversation about, who are you? What do you want in life? How do you make these decisions? And she understood, and she was able to respond.
Yeah, that's so fortunate, because I think it's a hard, I mean, it's a dilemma for sure, because like middle schoolers, from my personal experience, go through lots of not only like hormonal changes, but just they're completely in a different, I mean, I can't say the same for you, Reagan, or but for me, I was dealing with lots of dumb stuff, like literally just dumb stuff. Focusing on trying not to get bullied, or like I could even barely focus on my classes personally. So, definitely depends on the person, because I think actually a lot of, it doesn't really, age doesn't really, I'm definitely a believer in that. Like age is just a number. But at the same time, I do worry, or not worry, but like there is definitely concern on who to target this towards, because I definitely see some potential for, let's say, middle schoolers, 8th graders, like you were saying. But I don't know. I feel like these days, even the generation, what is it called, Gen Z, they're interested in very, very different things else. But I mean, not too different, but like the access that they have, the exposure that they have of certain information. I don't know. It's very, it worries me, because it's all about like influencer and
This is, well, Pauline, I don't think you've dealt with dumb things. I think they're real things to you when you're in 8th grade.
Okay,
Bullying
yeah.
is a reality.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
schoolwork is a reality. These are very real concerns for students at that age. And when posing questions to like Gen Z, they deal with similar issues, but it's how you go about asking them. And
Right.
that sometimes I don't know how to ask the questions, because the way they reference some of these issues is different from the way I would reference it, because I'm older. And if I was a student at the 8th grade level, the way teachers or my mentors would have asked me differently than I would ask someone right now of an 8th grade, because of the different generational issues. And not only that, cultural, societal ways of expressing is different now.
Yeah.
But Reagan, you're really mature.
Yes, I think so.
Extremely mature. And so I can't use you as a sort of the standard by which a 10th grader would think. Because I think the way you process information is very uniquely you. And so the reason why I constantly ask what your opinions are is while you are unique in terms of your maturity, you're also still a 10th grader. And I'm grateful for that because you reflect some of the concerns of 10th graders. And that for me is very important in evaluating this program.
Yeah.
The final question I have for both of you is, in what ways could this have been improved so it is better for when we offer it again? How do you make a program better? And I prefer honesty over anything else. Reagan?
Reagan, do you have anything before I say anything?
I think it was pretty good overall. I think some of the topics maybe could have been a little more focused in a way.
Yes,
of
I
not
agree.
covering so many different topics in like jumping around from a top within the same topic, jumping around to different ideas within the topic, I guess.
Yes.
Kind of just having not simpler questions, but less questions that revolve around the same idea, but covering different information.
No, that's an excellent observation. And I would, and at the end of a conversation, actually, when we part ways, I actually, the following morning, I start to write my thoughts about it and realize, oh my gosh, what did we talk about? And so you are hitting on a very important point in the way that discussion were not focused enough. Thank you, Reagan. What about you, Pauline?
You know, what Reagan pointed out was, I would say, very true. Also, I think, I mean, obviously, we're still in the works of working on marketing and all that stuff, but I think the way maybe we could, I think if there was a way to somehow recap the conversation, because I think not that there weren't any good questions. So good question. I mean, there were so many good questions, but like Reagan said, because it was such a broad topic and there's so many little things, little topics even within one topic. Maybe even structuring those questions just a little bit differently. So that also at the end there is some type of like it circles back to one thing. And then I think each topic, I think I loved each topic. I think it was very, very important for what we wanted to, work through. But at the same time, I am thinking maybe there might be an even more effective way to break down, making sure they all tie to each other, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. In our discussion, they seem like individual topics, but they're actually very much connected.
Exactly.
Because the idea is that these 12 themes, if put together, and in the book, and actually the next time we do the program, the connection will be clearer because I'm going to be drawing out. It's actually been rearranged.
Okay, I would say
just the program has been rearranged, and it's going to continue to rearrange the next few weeks as I write more about each topic. But you're right in saying that at the end of the conversation, I should, or Reagan should have, both of us, either one of us, should have sort of had two concluding statements.
Right. So that it's like more evident on how everything connects
and connected.
Uh-huh.
And so the way the future program is designed, the way it's been edited and developed more, is that we're going to focus on 3 instead of 5 questions. And everyone would have read it. The listener, the participant, everyone ideally would have read it, and they will know the context in which this conversation develops from.
Yeah, I actually like that part. I like that there was an extra of like or context that was provided.
And then the idea is that there will be clearer understanding of how they're interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And that I'm hoping to include it in our conversation by including a sort of summary of what the point should have been.
Yeah.
If the direction of the conversation is scattered, which it sometimes might be.
I mean, I'm gonna add like that. I think that would make it feel more like a program or like a course that they feel like, oh, I'm walking through each of these topics. And I personally learned a lot. And there was lots of different insights, but I think it would help so everything's correlated to one thing. And then, it just feels like, oh, okay, I like finished a program, or you know what I mean? Like
absolutely. What the ideal design, and actually, if everything works out, if I get money for this program and my grant proposal is accepted, it is to have this 14-week program in which the moderators will actually have access to a copy of my book, which would be short discussions of each topic.
Mm-hmm.
Then it will be reinforced by a 3-session workshop, reinforcing what we've learned. And the third part, the clincher, is the retreat that will bring everything together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so the 1-year program will then help students to really fully engage with the topic, not being jumping from one topic to another where it's where you don't take time to reinforce what you've learned.
Yeah, I think
that
that's
I think is important.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, it is a program in development, and I'm hoping to not perfect it, but get it better by next year after we do one trial run, the pilot program next semester.
I think it's pretty successful. Your very first time, and we had great speakers. I mean, despite the pandemic and everything, this is a really great way to communicate through Zoom, and have other people having access to our videos and our website. So, I think it's pretty successful. Obviously, nothing is perfect the first time, so it's all, a work in progress. And I think there's lots of potential in the program for sure.
Any final thoughts before we end our conversation? Anyone?
Reagan, you want to go first? I think you want.
Sure. I think one of my takeaways from the program was, in order to help serve your community, you need to better understand yourself and what your values are and what your end goal is for what you're trying to accomplish in the social justice world.
Oh my gosh, Reagan, do me a favor. Can you type that out for me and send it to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't even know what I just
said. If I can remember what I said.
I'm going to be using you as my inspiration for my book. Just remember to email me that to share, so I can share with everyone. Pauline, final thoughts.
Really great to see familiar faces from all the people that we've worked with in the past years. Loved all of their feedback and insights. I also learned, like, I completely agree. I think Reagan really got the whole point of this program. And I definitely also, just listening to everybody, I truly enjoyed all the different questions because it did make me think
Yeah.
like a lot about
Yeah, the
myself.
greatest part of this program, something I will not be able to probably continue, is having insight into people's journeys, all the different perspectives that they were able to share, and their willingness actually to share. And so for me, it was wonderful opportunity to connect with all old friends and people that I've met through this organization. It's wonderful that I got the opportunity to actually connect with Reagan. I was introduced to Reagan because of this program.
Mm.
And so that's for me, the biggest takeaway is that I got to know Reagan. And of course, the other takeaway for me is this, that I was able to connect with more with my niece, who I have not been able to talk with the last couple of months. So that was the greatest thing for me as well. So I would like to thank you both for being part of this conversation, and
Yeah.
hopefully the program will grow and be able to impact more people.
Yes,
Thank you both.
I agree. Thank you. Bye.